Hi, I'm Ricky LeBlanc, managing attorney at Sokolove Law. For over 30 years, I've dedicated my life to helping those who have been injured by the wrongdoings of major companies, primarily in the asbestos field. Today, we're going to talk about products that you may not understand or realize contained asbestos. Those are personal hygiene products, or better known as talcum powders, including baby powder. There's a clear link between asbestos and talc, especially talcs used for talcum powder. Both talc and asbestos are naturally occurring minerals. Where there are talc deposits, often intertwined in those deposits are veins of asbestos. When the talc is removed from the earth, the asbestos is also scooped up and put in with the rest of the talc. It's not that companies want the asbestos in the talc, they just do very little or nothing to remove it. Unfortunately, talcum powder can cause cancer. Most talcum powders contain asbestos. Asbestos is a known carcinogen for decades. The microscopic asbestos fibers can be ingested, meaning swallowing it, or they can be inhaled through your nose or mouth into your lungs and deposited in your body. Because these fibers are so small, they can travel throughout your body. It is why for years in traditional industrial exposure to asbestos-containing products, we've had individuals that have a disease known as mesothelioma that is surrounding the lungs because they breathed it in, but also around the stomach, even further down in some instances around the testicles, and further up around the brain. So clearly, these fibers have been known for decades to travel throughout the body, no matter whether they were ingested or inhaled. Studies have shown that there is an increased risk of ovarian cancer when the subject is exposed to talcum powders. In most instances, it's the use of talcum powder around the genitals. Most oftenly, it's used by women as a feminine hygiene product. It's also used in makeup applications and non-hygiene uses. And whether that asbestos is causing the ovarian cancer or the ovarian cancer is just triggered by talc itself without contamination is what the scientific community is looking at, and what we have been arguing successfully for years, that talcum powder by itself likely is causing ovarian cancer. Most commercially available talcum powder products are contaminated with asbestos. The types of products that most people recognize are things such as baby powder or after shower products, foot powders, but it can also be loose powders that come with a puff cosmetically to apply to the face and other body parts. Also barbershop products, talcum powder that's used after a shave or a haircut by the barber, puts it on a brush. Oftentimes they would blow into it and then they would brush the collar of their client, all the time exposing both their client and the barber to the microscopic asbestos fibers contained in that talc. Unfortunately, anyone who used talcum powder is at risk for developing mesothelioma. Anyone who used it, generally speaking, long-term, is going to be susceptible to developing mesothelioma. That means people who started using it as infants, they didn't use it themselves, but their parents applied it to them, exposing both the infant and the parent. Generally speaking, the clients we see have also been exposed beyond infancy, but throughout their lives, they continue to use the product. A talcum powder lawsuit can be filed by anyone who's been diagnosed with a disease associated with the use of talcum powders and have a history of using such powders. So whether that is a mother or a nurse or a barber or anyone else who just used powder on a frequent basis would have a right to make a claim. Now, for those people who have succumbed to the disease and are no longer with us, their family may also bring a claim on behalf of the estate of their loved one. What is important is that anyone who would like to bring a claim They must understand there are time limits to do so. Those time limits vary from state to state. The only way you're going to know is to speak with a talcum powder lawyer. We're often asked, how are you going to prove my case? When it comes to someone who's been exposed to asbestos-containing talc products, it's not much different than the person who worked in a steel mill or was a boiler maker. Exposure to asbestos causes mesothelioma. So if we can establish that you were exposed, the case can be established. How do we do that? It doesn't matter if it was 20 years ago, 10 years ago, just like the other cases I talked about. Your lawyer will work with you to determine what evidence you have. Many people still have bottles or boxes or cartons of the materials they've always used sitting in their house. Others, we get a oral history from the injured or from the injured's parents or siblings or spouse. Testimony is often the easiest way we prove cases. Many companies are involved in talc litigation. Lawsuits have been filed against names you know, whether that be Johnson & Johnson, Colgate-Palmolive, even Avon, and other products you thought were safe. Any makeup you can have, fancier brands like Chanel, also on the list of companies who've been sued. If you've had a asbestos-containing talc product and you've been using that, it doesn't matter who the company is, we've probably already made claims against them before, and if not, we'll make one now. Unfortunately, lawyers cannot remove a diagnosis. We cannot cure diseases. What we can do for folks who come into our office with an asbestos-related disease or a talcum powder-related disease is try to seek justice for them, provide them with some financial security, peace of mind, and just an acknowledgement that it wasn't their fault and that companies who caused this are being held accountable. Filing a talcum powder lawsuit is very similar to any other lawsuit you may be more familiar with. It's a single case filed by an individual against all of the manufacturers or suppliers of the talcum powders that were used. It is not things you've heard of like a class action where a whole bunch of you are lumped together with one person representing all of you. This is your case. So a person with a talcum powder disease is going to file their case through their lawyer, and it will be prosecuted one client versus all of the defendants that harmed them, and then the next client. It's not all lumped together. Talcum powder verdicts have ranges like any other case. The specific facts of your case are going to determine its value. Recently, there have been decisions with $966 million verdicts, $1.5 billion verdicts. And those verdicts represent the jury's attempt to punish the defendants for hiding the fact that they were harming people. It's not just the damage that occurred to that family or to that individual, it's that they're trying to send a message, don't do this again. Generally speaking, those verdicts are extraordinary in that they are trying to punish. In some states, you're not allowed to punish, and so you just get what the court and the jury feel you deserve for your pain and suffering, for the injury incurred to your family. And those numbers generally range in the $600,000 to $1.5 million range. I'm often asked, did Johnson & Johnson know that their baby powder and other products contained asbestos? They would tell you no. Records, though, internal memos, scientific studies, established that they were aware that there was asbestos in their products. And that's why jurors in some jurisdictions have tried to punish Johnson & Johnson. They put a dangerous product into society, and that in itself is enough to cause liability in many states. You can't provide a product that causes harm to others, not safe for their intended purpose.